Uber has found a way to ensure that they do not pay taxes for the foreseeable future, and one bonus story afterwards.
Xbox, Twitter, Uber,
Postmates,
Netflix, MoviePass,
Google,
eBay,
DoorDash,
Apple, Amazon, Airbnb,
The Apptrepreneur. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and so Uber, they're having a very bad week on the stock market, on the news front, everything. This was one of those days where I actually had to pick and choose the stories I wanted to talk about because there was just so many. And some of these stories I might get to at a later date, who knows. But I have found a very interesting one. You see, one of the stories that came up when I talked about their $5.2 billion loss was that there was an investor who probably was invested in the stock. I don't know for sure, he didn't confirm, who said there's a way Uber can make money, showed that chart where, so see, they're making hands over fists of money. This is a one-time thing, and, investors should not be concerned. However, there's a lot to suggest that Uber should very much be concerned, and we are going to talk about that. However, before we do, let's have a word from our sponsors. Times are changing for gig workers and the gig economy, and there are a lot more gigs from a lot more companies than there used to be. That's why when people ask me where they can go to find resources for the gig economy, I recommend gigworker.com. At this site, you can see what other gig workers are doing and discover better opportunities from industries, companies, resources, and even a forum where you can talk with other people in the gig economy. Gigworker.com is a great resource site, whether you work for Uber, Lyft, Postmates, DoorDash, TaxRabbit, Thumbtack, Upwork, whatever. There's a gig for you and there's a forum for you on gigworker.com. Gigworker.com for all your gigs. When I was looking through the stories we could talk about today, this was one of the ones that I considered discussing. Colombia fines Uber more than $629,000 for obstructing regulatory visit. Colombia's commerce regulator said on Monday it would fine ride-hailing company Uber Technologies Inc. more than $629,000 for obstructing a regulatory visit in 2017. That seemed like an interesting story to cover, but I kind of decided not to do that one. There was this other one here. Uber to stop service at Ontario Airport after fee increase. Uber says it's stopping its service at Southern California's Ontario International Airport because of fee increases. KABC TV reported Sunday that the airport east of Los Angeles now charges the ride-hailing company $4 for pickup and $4 for a drop-off. The new fees went into effect July 1st. So, here's the thing. I could make a video about that, but we'll just summarize that one really quick. Basically, don't take people to Ontario International Airport anymore. They're not going to be there. However, I think this is what we really want to talk about right now. Uber stock just hit a record low after last week's disastrous earning report. And as you can see, it went below $37. This also means I've lost about $10 on the stock. So, ironically, this was closer to the price that I was going to buy originally, and I don't know why I didn't wait, to be perfectly honest, but there you go. Serves me right? So anyway, shares of Uber sank more than 7% to a record low price Monday, closing at $37.01. The stock's previous bottom of $37.10 was hit May 13th, 2 days after the ride-hailing giant's initial public offering. Last week, Uber reported second quarter earnings that fell short of investor expectations and catalyzed a sell-off that sent shares down as much as 10%. And by the way, the hiring freeze also spooked the investors, I believe. Despite the recent struggles, Wall Street remains bullish on the stock, with many analysts recommending the name as a buy. Quote, while there are considerable risks in ownership across the space given the intense competition, there's one competitor, there's Lyft, and that's tanking too. Regulatory issues and operating pressures, we continue to believe the risk-reward is owning the leader in this space is favorable, and we remain buy-rated, Goldman Sachs Heath Terry told clients following the company's earning print. In this third quarter, Uber has begun a series of cost-cutting measures. In July, the company laid off 400 marketing employees worldwide, followed by a hiring freeze on US and Canada-based engineering. So here's the situation now. The stock is tanking. It's not doing well because the company's not growing. And they fired some of their marketing department. And they put a freeze on hiring engineers and stuff, which is actually very, very troubling because they're all about future profits and the future growth of the company. And when you're not investing in your engineers, you are not investing in the future. And yet, somewhere along the line, Uber managed to create a 6.1 billion Dutch weapon to avoid paying taxes. You know, the crazy thing about this is I remember when I first started talking about Uber, I saw this video, I forgot which channel it was from, and they were talking about the cons of Uber, and they were sharing some of the not quite honest things the company has done. And one of the guys on the video said, you know, we're kind of getting to the point where Uber is being run by supervillains, and it's not going to be that different. It's like, oh, Dr. Doom, well, he's got a doctorate, so must be a legitimate doctor. And it's crazy because, like, with this headline, that's all I can think about. Like, is Dara Khosrowshahi Lex Luthor now? Wait, no, I'm sorry, that's Jeff Bezos. Let's say he's the Vulture or Mysterio. You know, one of the other bald villains. Is Mysterio always bald? I don't know. Maybe it's the glass thing. But anyway, let's look at this article, which I had to pay $2 to read, so I hope you appreciate it. Uber Technologies Inc. Oops, I think I missed one. Uber Technologies Inc. responding to a European crackdown on offshore tax havens created a 6.1 billion Dutch tax deduction that will help the company reduce a chunk of its global tax bill for years to come. San Francisco-based Uber generated the outsized deduction before its initial public offering in May because it moved some of its offshore subsidiaries to different countries as a result of new European rules governing multinational companies. The 6.1 billion deduction came through an increase in the value of intellectual property that Uber transferred between its offshore subsidiaries, according to the company's first quarterly filing. When an intangible asset increases in value, so do the tax deductions that come with its use over time. Quote, it's safe to say Uber will not be paying any taxes for the foreseeable future, said Robert Willens, an independent tax and accounting expert in New York. That 6.1 billion will be a cushion should the company ever turn a profit, allowing the ride-hailing company, which has offices and subsidiaries in the Netherlands, to winnow down the Dutch portion of its future global tax bill. The windfall is only applicable to the company's tax bill in the Netherlands, a tax-reducing hub favored by multinational corporations. But it will certainly lower the company's overall global tax bill if it becomes profitable. Meanwhile, the company can use its U.S. losses to lower its U.S. tax bill. So, yeah, it's not like a literal weapon. But, you know, hey, made for a great headline. It made for a great reaction. And this is, by the way, what a lot of companies do. I'm not even going to pretend that Uber is unique in this one. One of the biggest companies that does this is Apple. Apple puts many of their dollars overseas in offshore bank accounts to avoid paying taxes. Amazon does the same thing, maybe not as much because they're constantly losing money, but they do have offshore accounts. Uber, and here's the thing, if Uber had to pay taxes on this, they would probably go under because, you know, they can't manage money worth a darn. Anyway, Uber isn't the only U.S. company that has moved operating units around the world in response to Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development rules. Oh, there you go. I called it. The OECD requires multinational companies to justify the business purpose of their offshore operations. Low-tax countries like Singapore, Ireland, and the Netherlands are becoming more desirable than no-tax Caribbean havens such as Bermuda. Uber's windfall was created last March when it pulled intellectual property out of a paper entity in Bermuda with no employees and put it into a Dutch entity that's ultimately controlled by a holding company in Singapore. The Dutch entity has dozens of other Uber entities under it, according to Netherlands Chamber of Commerce documents. But the size of the tax savings took experts by surprise. Willens, the tax expert, called the 6.1 billion deduction unusual relative to Uber's roughly 73 billion market value. Another independent tax and accounting expert, Frank Very in Boston, said he was surprised that the deduction was that large. The benefit reflected the lofty value that Uber had given its IP when it moved its subsidiaries to new locations. An Uber spokesperson said the shuffle was made to, quote, meet the demands of new global tax environment, and of course, so that they don't have to pay taxes. That's what this is about. He referred to the OECD rule that aimed to prevent technology and pharmaceutical companies from using paper companies to whisk profits earned in high-tax countries to low-tax and no-tax ones. You just don't want to pay taxes. That's what it is. It's not their fault that you're cheap. The spokesperson, who has not to be named, citing company policy, added the shuffle also marked an end to Uber's use of a different tax strategy known as Double Dutch. That structure, which involves Dutch entities with no employees that funnel profits to havens, has been popular with multinationals in recent years and is now in the crosshairs of European regulators, as it should be. Technology companies have always worked hard to keep their tax bills low. Amazon.com Inc.'s relatively small annual profits have allowed the e-commerce giant to shrink its tax payments while reinvesting in new projects. That strategy has been a recipe for high growth and low tax payments. It has. In the U.S., Uber has tallied operating losses of more than $10 billion over the last 3 years. Those losses will allow it to cut down its future U.S. tax bills. At the end of last year, it reported U.S. net operating losses for future use of $5.1 billion for federal purposes and $4.4 billion for taxes in the states in which it operates. In its second quarter filed Thursday, Uber posted a $5.2 billion net loss and sales that fell short of this is a very fascinating article. It's also, by the way, a fairly long article. But here's the funny thing that it ends on. The Uber spokesperson said the company remains committed to openness and transparency, with tax authorities around the world staying faithful to both the letter and intent of the laws in the many jurisdictions where we operate. Which that's pretty much saying, like, hey, if you allow us to get away with it, we're going to do it, and we'll be honest about it. I mean, Uber's been honest about so many other things, except for the whole, the lower the rates are, the more money you'll make. That didn't end up being true. So yeah. This is not something that is totally unusual, but the fact that Uber is doing it is just one more reason to dislike it. Companies do it all the time. They don't want to pay taxes. They move their money offshore. Again, I think Apple is probably the worst offender in this. I have a friend who works at Apple. He'll probably tell me I'm wrong, but I think I'm right on this one. Anyway, let's end with one more side story. And this is a little side story we're going to do. This is kind of app-related, sort of not. I just kind of want to talk about it. This is one of the reasons I dislike digital gaming. DuckTales Remastered is being removed from digital stores tomorrow. As must seemingly come to pass for all licensed video games, it would appear that time is up for DuckTales Remastered. The video game, which is a remastered version of the original 1989 DuckTales video game for the NES, which is a classic, I played it for many hours when I was a kid, is set to be removed from digital storefronts starting tomorrow, August 8th. By the way, this is comicbook.com, the website I'm reading this from. Heads up, everyone, DuckTales Remastered is leaving digital storefronts in a duck blur and will no longer be available for purchase beginning August 8th, 2019. So this is a few days already. Capcom's blog post announcing the game's delisting reads, if you've already purchased it in the past or if you buy it before the date sometime below, you'll still be able to access and play the games. So here's the thing. Apparently the contracts are expiring, and this happens. So when it comes to that, they got to pull it from the store and when they don't want to renew it. And that's what's going to happen. Now, they did do a fire sale, so if you hadn't owned it, you could get it for like $3, and that ensured like anyone who hadn't gotten it but wanted it could get it at that point. However, I prefer the physical copy, which this doesn't have any patches or anything. It's on eBay. Not my personal copy. I'm keeping this one. But yeah, if you want it, they have this. They also have it on PlayStation 3 in a physical edition. It's just a shame. It's a shame to think that this is the future, because without physical copies, these games just disappear, and then you have to have the original hardware in order to continue playing them. I think that's wrong. I don't think that's particularly consumer friendly, but it is what it is. So anyway, we're going to end right there. What do you folks think about DuckTales? What do you think about the $6.1 billion Uber is hiding offshore? Do you agree with it? Do you disagree? Smart business? Don't like it in general on principle? I'd love to know. So comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming, my nose is itching, sorry, a Patreon member. It's totally optional, of course, but even as little as $1 a month goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly, and you get access to my Patreon's exclusive blog. Also, if gas prices are getting just a little down, check out the Get Upside app below. It's totally free. You get cash back on every gas purchase. If you want more videos from me that are not rideshare related, check me out at Kevin T. Rodriguez, the Apptrepreneur Vlogs, and Autograph Hound. And finally, if you want to talk to me or other fellow rideshare drivers, check out the Apptrepreneur Hangouts on Facebook. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.